Hello everyone, I'm sorry for lacking some of my regular accoutrement today. I am making this really quickly. I hope it doesn't affect the quality of the video. So here we go. Let's talk about Lumity and that last episode, because, wow. A lot happened very quickly, so let's break it down. Lumity is not slowing down anytime soon. In the new episode of The Owl House, Through the Looking Glass Ruins, Amity kisses Luce. This comes at the end of an episode in which Amity goes through a lot of changes, especially in regards to her hair, which she dyed violet pinkish. This I did not see coming. I don't think anyone did. In the fandom, there were basically two ideas about what would happen to Amity's hair. Either she would keep it green because it looked kind of cool, or she would dye it back brown in order to demonstrate her independence against the whims and wishes of her family, especially her mother Adelia. But neither of those two options happened. Instead, she demonstrated her independence by dyeing her hair a different color. And I have to say, it'll take some getting used to, but I think it looks really good. Luce certainly thinks so. If you go by how Luce reacts after Amity dyes her hair and Luce sees her for the first time. Luce blushes a lot in this episode, but there's something very special about when she sees Amity with her new hair for the first time. More importantly, think about what this represents for Amity's character. She's growing bolder. She's growing more willful. She's growing more willing to assert her own beliefs and her own ideals and her own wishes instead of just doing whatever her parents think she should do. It's something she has to get used to. It's not how she's used to living. But it's a good change for her. We see her having a long and intimate chat in this episode with her siblings, especially her sister, about her feelings for Luce. And it's great to see her siblings being so supportive. I know a lot of us thought that maybe her siblings were hiding something. Maybe they weren't as helpful and dorky as they seemed. In this episode alone, Through the Looking Glass Ruins, we see an example of a character who puts on a cheerful facade but is in reality much crueler and more callous than they appear in the case of Bria. This is in the Gus storyline, and, well, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that kind of storytelling necessarily, although the way it's done in this episode is kind of predictable, but that's more a function of kind of relying on more threadbare and simplistic ideas about storytelling than anything innately wrong with having a character reveal themselves to be more malicious than they appear to be. But there's also nothing wrong with having characters not actually be malicious, with having them, yes, be exactly as compassionate and dorky as they appear to be, and that is exactly what happens with Amity's siblings. And that's really good for Amity. She has people who will support her, even though her parents, and especially her mother, are not as supportive. Her siblings have very few similarities to their controlling, perfectionist mother. They are closer to their absent-minded father, but Alador is, if nothing else, very committed to his craft. He is passionate about making abominations and doing it well. Neither of Amity's siblings have that level of dedication or commitment to a certain craft, but that's fine. They're drifters, they're freewheelers. They're just kind of wandering around trying to help out their sister, and that's really comforting to see. They try their best to help however they can. They help Amity dye her hair, and they help her work through her feelings for Luce. Also, I love how both they and everyone is just ambiently aware of Luce and Amity's closeness. It's not some big secret. It's not something they have to hide from anyone. And it's not something that goes unnoticed by anyone who has spent even the slightest amount of time around them. Just like any other middle schoolers, they're very overt in their affections. But of course, those affections are also increasing, culminating in the kiss we see in this episode. And it's not like Luce does anything wild or dramatic in this episode. She doesn't go against the image Amity or anyone else has of her. She's just the person she's always been. She's very committed to the people she cares about, and she hates injustice, and whenever she sees something that she believes is unjust, she does her best to try and fix it. There are no flashy displays in this episode like we see Amity do for Luce in episode 2 of this season. However, I do feel that Luce's story is truncated a little in this episode. I don't have a lot of complaints about this episode, but if I had one, it would be that. That and how parts of the Gus storyline involving the cool kids from Glandis are handled. Now, I understand wanting to give Gus more screen time. His character is a little underwritten before this episode, and he deserves a little more of the spotlight, and it's nice to see an interesting bit of world building with people from other covens looking down on illusion magic, as though it's like a theater major or something. Not that I'm one to laugh, being an English and creative writing major. But prioritizing Gus's story does have consequences for the other half of the episode, which is weird, not because I'm super into the romance of the Owl House, though it is nice, but because that half of the episode is extremely important for the story. Luce trying to find out more information about the human who last came to the Boiling Isles, who may or may not be Emperor Balos. That's very important, so it's strange to see that shunted to a side plot in this episode. I assume we'll find more information about it later, though. Still, Luce continued to impress Amity, not by changing, not by doing some dramatic display, but just by continuing to be the person that she always has been. Now, this is not to say that Luce hasn't changed. She has. I've talked about this in previous videos, and I'll talk about it again here. She's really grown and matured and come to think of other people as much as she thinks about herself and her own journey. This is all good to see. But from Amity's perspective, Luce is the constant. Luce is the one who just is always committed to doing what she knows is right, even if it's silly, even if it's ridiculous, even if it's a little dangerous. Luce can never turn away from what she thinks is moral, and Amity admires that about her. She loves that in Luce, and she wants to be more like that. And she is very much slowly becoming more like that, and that is good to see. In both here and Escaping Expulsion, we see her go against the wishes of her parents, especially her mother Adelia, who is really trying to control her. Her siblings in this episode even outright say that their mother is not going to like Amity doing that to her hair. So I hope there is fallout from this. Not that I hope that for Amity's sake, of course, but from a storytelling perspective, I think we do need to see the fallout from this. Amity was so terrified of going against her parents, so now that she has gone against them, we need to see the backlash from that. We need to see her parents, especially her mother, harshly criticizing her. Perhaps her mother ends up giving her an ultimatum that either Amity can do what her mother wants, or Amity can leave. I'm sure something like that would terrify Amity, but I'm also sure that if she was given such an ultimatum, she would leave. She has Luce, and she knows that Luce and her friends, and probably Ida, would all support her. And Amity is less scared these days. She's less timid. She's more bold and assertive. And her kissing Luce like that demonstrates this. Even her siblings comment on that. Now, of course, from Amity's perspective, it's probably not the best that Luce just does not really respond to Amity kissing her. This is not because Luce doesn't reciprocate her feelings. Of course, we know she does, and she's just very disoriented and love-struck and not sure what to do next. But from Amity's perspective, knowing how anxious and nervous Amity can be, Luce's lack of a response might be read by Amity as Luce not reciprocating those affections. Amity might worry. And of course we know those worries are unfounded, but Amity doesn't. She can't be sure. And she's been doing a lot of things that she would never have dared to do before, so she might be a little afraid that she's gone too far, and that if Luce doesn't like her the same way that she likes Luce, she won't have anyone to really be there for her and help her out when the backlash from her parents inevitably does come. But of course, all this is going to be dealt with later. It's nice to see the romance, but it's nice also to see that the romance is not going to take over the show. There are so many other stories to tell with these characters, and there are so many characters to tell stories with in this show, so I guess it does make sense that we are not going to get more about Luce and Amity until the 9th episode of the show's 2nd season, the penultimate episode before our big hiatus. It's nice to see that the relationship is moving fast. It's nice to see that the show isn't just constantly having these two crush on each other and blush around each other without actually acting on their feelings. This makes for much more interesting and creative storytelling. There's so much more you can do about a fully formed relationship than you can do with just two people with feelings they won't confess. These two love each other, that's obvious. I think everyone knows that. They know it. Even Amity's parents, I believe, know it. Or if they don't, they will soon. As pretty much every character in the show has pointed out, their affections for each other are not subtle. The real question is, what will the fallout from all this be? It'll be really interesting to find out. I can't wait to see what it is. But until then, let's celebrate this very nice accomplishment in the progression of this beautiful relationship between these two. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Owl House. It's a great, compassionate, thoughtful show, and I can't wait to see where the show goes from here. I can't wait to see how it handles these different characters and these different plot lines and these different relationships. I'm really fascinated to see how the show will progress. So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. That I promise you. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.